and make sure that these matters are investigated within the laws that are stated. But when you have a victim being kept in your custody more than 48 hours, all in the name of investigation, if something happens to the person, certainly you would see the youth or the relatives, certainly they will certainly react. And so, Mr. Speaker, I would want to use this opportunity to call on the police and all the, security agencies. They should attach seriousness and make sure that when there is a case before them, for them to investigate, they must do it within the laws. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, I thank you once again for the opportunity.
Thank you, honorable members. Honorable members, we live in a country governed by law. We are not living in a country in a natural state of war. Honorable members, nobody is above the law. So we should allow the law to operate. We cannot continue to be taking the law into our own hands. Honorable members, police are to protect life and property. We need to realize that Ghanaian and the police are supposed to live coterminously. I would therefore urge the IGP to ensure that this matter is investigated thoroughly and anybody find capable, culpable, should be made to face the full rigors of the law. Honorable members, let me add my voice in thanking the maker of the statement. Honorable members, yesterday there was a statement made by Honorable Deputy Minority Whip. It generated so much debate, and in the course of the debate, Honorable Majority Leader promised to verify some issues and bring it to the fore. I am reliably informed that he is ready to inform the House. After that, I will give the floor to the minority leader, and no one else is entitled to contribute to the issue. I will therefore give the floor to the majority leader. But, honorable members, we must be circumspect and operate within Standing Order 93(5). Honorable Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as you rightly indicated, yesterday, the Deputy Minority Whip sought leave of the Speaker and the indulgence of the House to raise a matter that he thought was of urgent public importance. Specifically, he raised two issues, one pertaining to some press conference of the Special Prosecutor at the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Secondly, he drew attention to a joint police-military entry into the private residence of the former Minister of Finance, Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta. Mr. Speaker, the statement drew a lot of debate, following some commentary, and I promised this House that I will carry out some investigation to try and appreciate the circumstances surrounding the joint police and military entry into the private residence of the former Minister of Finance. In making this statement today, let me indicate that as a country and as a parliament, we have a constitution to uphold. That constitution has embedded in it fundamental human rights, including the right to one's privacy, the right to the integrity of one's property, and His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama remains committed to ensure that the rights and liberties of every individual is respected or are respected. Mr. Speaker, secondly, I make this statement on the basis of the commitment of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama to reset this country, which means that everybody must act in compliance with the law and the mandate of institutions. And so I have called the relevant stakeholders in the matter to find out exactly what happened. So, Speaker, it is true that the private residence of the former Minister of Finance was entered into by operatives of the military and the police, led by the somebody who we believe works at the National Security Coordinator's Office. Mr. Speaker, his name is Mr. Jakwa. Mr. Speaker, we have investigated the matter, and we want to say and assure our fellow countrymen and our colleagues in this House that we have received assurances from the Office of the National Security Coordinator that it was not intended that that should happen, and that occurrence is most regrettable and unfortunate, and he wants to give this House his word and assurance that a thing like that should never happen again. Mr. Speaker, I have also spoken with the Minister of Interior, who has spoken with his IGP, and I've spoken with the Minister of Defense, and all of them give their assurance to this House that a thing like that will not happen again. And so, Mr. Speaker, let me indicate to my colleagues on the other side that this side of the House remain committed to ensuring that this country is reset, that its institutions function properly, that its officials act in accordance with the law, and that the rights and liberties of every citizen are upheld and protected under the regime of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. I personally extend my apologies to the former Minister of Finance, and I believe that this should suffice. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Majority Leader, I will now invite the Honorable Minority Leader for his comment.
Mr. Speaker, the man, Mahama Ayariga, is making his name in the politics of our country, is exemplary and must be commended. Mr. Speaker, I have not slept on this matter. He was taken to the south, I was taken to the north gate in ensuring that this matter was resolved. Mr. Speaker, what he has done today reminds me of what Honorable Attorney General did in 2015. In 2015, as a practitioner, I was all over the place, and I recall somehow Linus had urged upon him that Markin was making so much money from practice, so he should get me prosecuted on some tax offenses after the state had raided my office. And he stood his grounds. He didn't tell me, but somebody said, Markin. The Deputy Attorney General said, no way. They shouldn't invade your law firm again. And to date, he's the only person I have a picture with in my office to celebrate that moment where he felt that an opponent should not be a target. And we maintain good friendship ever since. Mr. Speaker, indeed, all that he's done demonstrates sincerity. We are a political class. That's the path we've chosen. We are not to cover crime, but we must protect each other for the good of democracy. Mr. Speaker, Ghanaians have told us something. When they are fed up with you, they are fed up with you. Mr. Speaker, in 2000 elections, after Kufuor won, some of us as student leaders thought that NDC would never come into office again because it was so devastating. But within 8 years, Ghanaians were already fed up with the MPP administration and they got a nod. Then fast forward 2016, when we had 169 seats, we thought it was all over for NDC. Here we were, in less than 4 years, that thing reduced to 137. We had to eat a humble pie. So, as I always quote the Frenchman, c'est la vie, this is life. Mr. Speaker, indeed, today,
Order.
Mr. Speaker, indeed today, I'm leading a mighty few. And Honorable Ayariga in ECOWAS Parliament is known as a sincere partner when it comes to resolving conflicts, and he's demonstrated it here. So, my respected leader, I want to assure you that our side would engage you constructively. Let's do the politics in a very decent way. Let's respect each other. Let's use words that are complimentary. Hold those who are the lowest ebb up and bring them up. If somebody is making a mistake, you go to the person and say, look, you could do it better. If somebody does it well, compliment. Let's celebrate each other. In the end, our principles will remain. I'm an MPP, proudly so. You are an NDC, proudly so. Don't let us use this platform to denigrate even our leaders. Sometimes the way we go after our leaders, the little said about it, the better. We use unprintable words. And let me caution all of us. The 2024 elections, check the percentage turnout. In Central, we didn't go beyond 60%. In Volta, around the same figures. In Ashanti, Upper East, Upper West, Greater Accra, the mighty Greater Accra, where all the politics is done. Find out the percentage turnout. What it means is that a percentage of our population is getting fed up with the political class because of our conduct. So, Mr. Speaker, some few days ago, I was scolded. Why are you apologizing? I said, when you need to correct the wrong, swallow your ego. At least that's what I've been taught. It doesn't matter. And if the whole majority leader, on behalf of government, is apologizing to an individual, we must celebrate him. And I would want to encourage our state institutions, especially those public servants who, when they see a change of government, they want to prove something to the new political masters. Me, I've been working with them, I know. They want to please. Some of them are changing their status, their DP. We see it all. They should be careful. At least today, the majority leader has made it clear that they cannot act in the name of the government, then they would go scot-free. If there is anything against any past government official, due process must be followed. And I'm sure all of us will have peace. My respected colleague, extend to His Excellency the President of the Republic the assurances of the minority that with this, we will also accord him every courtesy due him as President of the Republic. We would cooperate and oppose when we have to oppose. After all, our duty is to oppose you. And we can work together as a people to represent our people and for our people to learn from us and to teach us and to train us and to help us to advance this democracy. I want to conclude, Mr. Speaker, by saying that Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, as at this morning, I had an extensive engagement with him. He's traumatized by the labeling of this adjective described to his person. But he still knows that his God is with him. He's undergoing some medical procedure. In fact, I had an early morning engagement with the Chief of Staff who confirmed that indeed Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta wrote to him and is in receipt of the letter. He was very sincere in telling me that. So within reasonable time, I'm sure he would come. I will also engage the Office of the Special Prosecutor, engage constructively, assure him and his office that if there was any miscommunication, I, as a leader of my side, is assuring him that the man will make himself available. He left the country with permission. He would come, and if there is anything that has to be investigated, he will make himself available. It's not easy to serve your country, and I'm sure all shall be well for the good of us all. Mr. Speaker, I thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank once again the majority leader.
Now, members, let me use the opportunity to thank both the majority and the minority leader for setting an exemplary life. All members, this is the way we are supposed to go. My prayer is that we lived by the promises given us and we conduct the proceedings of the House with decorum and decency. I thank you. I will then call on Honorable Nana Asafo Aje Aye Member of Parliament for Bosomi Freho constituency, to present his statement.
Thank you, the Speaker. I want to thank you for this opportunity and also thank the good people of Bosomi Freho for allowing me to represent them. Speaker, today, 13 February, happens to be the World Radio Day. And I'm reading this statement on the floor of Parliament to commemorate that special day, or this special day. The Speaker, members of Parliament, I am honored to stand before you today in commemoration of the World Radio Day. The World Radio Day, observed annually on February 13th, was acclaimed in 2011 by the members of the UNESCO and adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 2012. As an international day, this global celebration recognizes the transformative power of the radio in promoting peace, tolerance, and understanding in today's world. Globally, radio has been a cornerstone of communication for over a century, providing the platform for information dissemination, education, and entertainment in Ghana. Radio broadcasting dates back to 31st July 1935, with the establishment of Radio Roy, the first state broadcast station with a primary mandate of playing liaison between the Crown and the colony. But over time, the radio served a wider and more significant role. By the 1940s, it had earned the accolade of being regarded as a theater of the minds because of music and drama, news, and broadcasts that it offered. Since then, radio has played a vital role in shaping our nation's history, from the struggle for independence to being a mouthpiece of coup plotters and finally becoming the voice of people, which is the present day today. Mr. Speaker, our radio stations, becoming a beacon of democracy of today, have, however, not been without a tussle. Prior to 2001, it was a criminal offense for a person to publish a defamatory or libelous statement about an identifiable person in the country. I am proud to state that on July 27, 2001, championed by the former President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, was the then Attorney General of the Republic. The Speaker unanimously voted to change the criminal libel code. That is the repeal of the criminal libel law and the seditious law. That is amendment in the Act 201. A law by which many journalists had previously been jailed for doing their jobs. Now, libel cases are handled in civil court and remedy for the same damage among other civil remedies. I cannot address my submission for your honorable self and House without referring to the significant contribution journalists on radio have made in our country. Aside from being the focal point of dissemination of information, they have provided a platform for citizens to engage in discussion, hold leaders accountable, and assess critical information, which forms a critical aspect of democratic nation like Ghana. Radio, I reiterate, has become an indispensable tool for democratic practice, especially at the local level. However, despite this contribution, there are challenges that we must acknowledge. Some journalists on radio have been known to perpetuate hate speech, propaganda, deliberate misinformation to the public on critical matters. These practices have the potential to incite violence undermine national cohesion, and erode trust in the democratic institution. The growing case of politically owned affiliate radio stations and more often than not the unfortunately biased reportage has misinformed and erode the gain that the radio throughout life has made, and it's important that we take note of that. To address this concern, I urge radio stations to uphold the highest standard of professionalism, accuracy, fairness in their reportage. As we celebrate World Radio Day, let us reaffirm our commitment to promote a free, independent, and responsible media. Let us work together to ensure that radio continues to serve the powerful tool for building a more informed, tolerant, and peaceful society. To conclude, Mr. Speaker, I must say that radio perpetuity is in the face of the mass influx of social media channels and platforms, is a testament to the United Nations and UNESCO's commitment to set aside a day as today to celebrate World Radio Day. Mr. Speaker, I am grateful again for giving me or granting me this opportunity, and I'm thankful for the House for indulging me. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. I'll give the floor to Honorable Minister for Education.
Mr. Speaker, let me thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the statement in honor of the World's Radio Day, and to commend the maker of the statement for bringing this matter to fore. It affords us an opportunity as Parliament, as guardians of human rights. What has been the role of the Parliament of Ghana in safeguarding the right to freedom of expression? At least today, Ghana can celebrate, Mr. Speaker. We are comparable even to the United States. The number of FM stations in Ghana today exceeds 300. The number of TV stations exceeds 200. It means, Mr. Speaker, this country has given room to the ventilation of ideas. I agree with him when he says criminal libel. Yes, the law has been repealed, but you have Ahmed Swale and others who were murdered in the course of service. That is heavier, and that is what we all must commit, that tolerance. That's why, Mr. Speaker, I'm paraphrasing his words. The theme for today is peace, tolerance, and understanding. If there is tolerance, you won't have journalists being murdered. If there is tolerance, you won't have journalists being invited by the police CID for comments that they have made. If there is tolerance, even members of Parliament here won't be at each other's throats. So tolerance in its true sense. Mr. Speaker, I've always said that the Honorable Asensio Chiri's right to speak ends at my right not to listen. He has a right to speak. So if he speaks, I also choose that I won't listen. But with respect, I should recognize that he has a right to speak. Mr. Speaker, what is lacking in Ghana is a broadcaster bill. I wish the majority leader was still here, Honorable Mahama Yarga, far back a decade ago when he was Minister for Information. I forwarded to him a draft legislation to regulate broadcasters generally in Ghana. The parameters must be drawn. Take GBC, Mr. Speaker, for instance. Are they a state broadcaster? Are they a public broadcaster? We don't know. Rural radio stations. Then, Mr. Speaker, today, social media has become a toxic source of misinformation. And people enjoy it. They enjoy some of the things we trade, running down reputation, running down integrity without due cause. So today we must celebrate World Radio Day. But Mr. Speaker, I believe that it's about time. I'm sure the new President Mohammed's new Minister for Communication should give it some attention. We need a broadcaster bill that defines one, who is a state or public broadcaster. GBC must be situated to be like BBC. How is it financed? Then we should have private broadcasters like we do. The like of multimedia is doing very well today. Then rural community radios. In some communities, what they enjoy is that is their opportunity. Even if the chief has an announcement, at least the radio station will be able to tell the community that the chief says that wear a mask because there is threat of COVID. It serves them their purpose. So, Mr. Speaker, I commend him for bringing this matter to fore. Then peace. You see, Mr. Speaker, the words, my mother used to say that your tongue is like a bullet. When it fires out the word, you can't arrest it again. Even if you look at domestic conflict, what husbands tell wives, what wives tell husbands, you say it and in a second you regret because your word becomes what? Your bullet. So, Mr. Speaker, my mother used to advise me that I should maintain golden silence on matters in the sense that you cannot interpret silence. Nobody can interpret silence. So if you want peace, learn to be silent. If somebody is saying something you disagree, keep your silence. Maintain golden silence. We're talking about the political class. We run down each other every other day. There's no election tomorrow. Until the next 4 years, there's no election. But we are still talking as if we are politicking and doing a campaign as if there is conduct of elections tomorrow. So, Mr. Speaker, let me commend the maker of the statement and let him know that Ghana have made enormous progress. When you say you are commending only Nana Akufo-Addo, you must thank President Rawlings who promulgated the 1993 Constitution. It is innate that those rights are guaranteed. What you call a market woman constitution is the constitution which has given you those rights. It guarantees freedom of expression. Radio and TV stations gives you the platform to ventilate those expressions. But Mr. Speaker, what I'm guided by his comment is that we all should be measured in what we say and we should be tolerant in what we do. Let's keep the unity and peace of our country even as we practice our democracy. So I commend the maker of the statement and to assure him that Ghana, we can celebrate like America or European Union or the UK, that freedom of expression is guaranteed in our country, is guaranteed in its democracy. Every Ghanaian has human rights to freedom of expression. The media institutions say independence of the media, intolerance, let's respect it. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. I'll give the floor to Professor Kingsley Nyako, Honorable.
Honorable Speaker, I'm grateful to you for the opportunity to add my voice to the statement ably made by our colleague, the Member of Parliament for Bosome Frehon. Honorable Speaker, this is a very important statement because it is at the core and center of our democracy. Radio and other media outlets help us to shape our democracy, to shape our societies, to build our communities. Radio provides us the opportunity to deepen our knowledge because the information that we receive from listening to the radio help us to live our lives better. Mr. Speaker, but you must also be very careful how we use radio. Otherwise, this medium that helps us to live better, that helps us to build our societies in a very meaningful and efficient way, can also be used to our disadvantage by creating anarchy, confusion in our society. Honorable Speaker, the issue of radio also brings about the menace of disinformation and misinformation. These twin words have devastating effects on societies and individuals when we spread disinformation, when we believe that the statements we are making, the comments we are making, our write-ups, when we believe that they are untrue, but yet still we propagate them. And others are also going to use it and spread the same information, that is misinformation. And it can undermine our integrity, it can undermine our credibility, and it can also lead in destabilizing our society. We don't need that. We need information that builds, information that strengthens us. Democracy can only thrive when we are dealing with information that is conducive to our well-being. People deliberately spread information, they know it is false, but because of political capital, they revert because of the advantage that they are going to get. But they forget about its negative implication or consequences on us and society. Mr. Speaker, this country can burn. It can be destroyed if we don't control our radio stations and our media outlets so effectively. We've taken so many years to build our democracy. 3 decades of democracy in our continent is something we must revere in. We have been able to do it. Why should we allow a few individuals to sit behind a console, to sit in front of TV sets and create anarchy and confusion in this country? I support the idea of the broadcasting bill. There should be clear guidelines. There should be regulations as to how, even though it is enshrined in our Constitution, freedom of speech, but it must come with responsibility, reasonableness in our communication, whether in words or in writing. That is how we can build a very strong democracy. Enough of the hate speeches. Enough of the hate speeches. They don't build, but they destroy. If through our speeches, our words, this country is reduced to flames and ashes, where will we be? Where are we going to find solace? There are some people, they don't even care. But some of us, we do care, because we believe that we have only one country, and that country is Ghana. And it behooves all of us to ensure that we safeguard the tenets of our democracy and the future of our country through proper democratic practices. We can build our fortunes and build our fortunes well. Mr. Speaker, on that score, I want to pat the back of the maker of the statement that we should ponder and reflect on this. As political players, whatever we do, we must think about the country. Whatever we do, we must think about posterity. Let us be measured in what we say. We must be tolerant to each and other's perspectives. After all, somebody said that if you all think alike, it means somebody else is not thinking, and that is wrong. There will be diversity of opinions and of views. We must respect everybody's opinions. If you have a contrary opinion, you can express it, but it must be devoid of insult, insinuation, vulgar languages, speeches that can kill the soul of that individual. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for indulging me, and I'll be forever grateful to you for indulgence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I'll give the floor to Honorable Jifa Gumashi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I join my colleagues to applaud the maker of the statement. It is timely and it is useful. Mr. Speaker, when I sought to contest, a young fellow said on radio that, did I not know that my late husband who passed away and I left him to come and campaign? This was said on radio, and I heard it with my own ears, and I thought, this child is asking me to curse him or bless him. See, the opportunity that we have with radio can, like a two-edged sword, build or destroy. It is for that reason that I stand this morning to comment on the statement that has been made and to urge our young people that indeed you will be reaping what you sow, whether it is on radio, whether it is on television, whether you write it on your Facebook page, on social media and everywhere. Remember that what you're saying today and doing today will not go away. It will be waiting for you as you grow. Mr. Speaker, I wonder how we as the politically exposed and also the vulnerable in society are planning to protect ourselves from the abuse of radio, television, and social media. I say this because in this era where we have artificial intelligence, our voices stand the risk of being used for what we haven't said. It can be used to twist what we have said, and it is a bit scary. There has to be a way in which we sanitize the system, and in that score, I want to join the former leader, Honorable Minister for Education, where he calls for the broadcast bill. If we don't work on it as fast as we can, we stand the risk of being the victims. Mr. Speaker, moving on, I'd also like to say that it's not in every community that we have radio reaching the people who vote for us. And I hope that the Minister for Communication will come and read this or hear about it and promote the smaller community radios that do broadcasting in our rural areas. I'm a rural area member of parliament, and I see the use and the benefits of those who have invested their small money in these tube-like metal things that carry messages very far into the community so that they can be abreast with what we discuss here and also benefit from what radio can do. When I was growing up, I interned at GBC under the late Carl Ajimambanaman, and one of the songs that was played in those during that time would be Radio Gets Results. Indeed, if radio gets results, what kinds of things are we saying on radio today to get the results that we want? Radio gives us opportunity to educate, to inform, and to entertain. But I think that we've reduced what is positive and are using the radio that should get results into doing things that malign people, vilify people, and really just tarnish the image of people who have worked hard for our country. And I think that this statement is in the right direction, and I celebrate the maker of the statement and all who have contributed to it. And I thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to Honorable Martin Yindam.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity to add my voice to the statements. Mr. Speaker, I think as a nation, we all will agree that radio or media in general is playing a very, very critical role in our lives. Without them, this country will be in darkness. So the role of radio cannot be underestimated. But Mr. Speaker, we must also try as much as possible to ask ourselves, Mr. Speaker, today, the kind of things that we hear, the content, is that what we are celebrating? Obviously not. Mr. Speaker, today, if you have a radio station or even a TV station and your host or the one handling that particular program, they are not very good at insulting, very few people listen to you. So, Mr. Speaker, that is not the kind of celebration we are calling for. Mr. Speaker, if you are not lucky, very soon, very, very, very soon, the good ones among them will start also giving us the content that all of us will not be happy with. Mr. Speaker, if they pick you today, they will insult you from the morning, the afternoon, and the night. The next day, they will drop it. They bring another personality. If it is NDC that they are insulting today, Mr. Speaker, we think that they are doing very well. The next day, they are done with NDC, they come back to MPP. That is not the kind of radio we encourage. I therefore want to say, Mr. Speaker, we agree, like the Minister of Education said, we have more than 300 radio stations in this country. Very good idea. But the content that they give us sometimes, Mr. Speaker, is problematic. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. I will give the floor to Honorable Dr. Clementa Park.
Most grateful, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me commend the maker of the statement for drawing our collective attention to both the benefits of radio as well as the dangers associated with radio. Mr. Speaker, I comment on this topic both as a practitioner and as somebody who has managed a radio station before. Many may not be aware, but I belong to the first generation of University of Ghana students who volunteered for our now legendary radio station known as Radio Universe. In my travels abroad, I continued to pursue radio. Studying for my PhD at Simon Fraser University, I volunteered to produce and host a very popular program known as African Connection. On my return to Ghana, and upon taking up my teaching appointment at the University of Ghana, I was appointed as the manager of Radio Universe. Mr. Speaker, radio is a very powerful tool. When rightly used, it benefits society. When wrongly used, it can set society ablaze. I believe many of us in this chamber have read about or can remember the Rwandan genocide. Almost every commentator, all the witnesses, some of the surviving victims attest to the fact that that genocide was promoted and executed through the use of radio. Mr. Speaker, in our own homeland, it is worrisome, but the truth ought to be stated, that some radio stations are notorious for being extreme in the nature of their programs, as well as the type of panelists that are deployed. I am not to name names, Mr. Speaker, but more importantly, we cannot speak about radio without talking about how poorly practitioners and journalists are treated. Remuneration is nothing to write home about. Many of them do not even earn the basic minimum required to live a decent life. This then makes them vulnerable to pariahs and political influences to do their bidding for pittance. So as we discuss radio and we talk about the positives and hope to highlight the positives, we cannot forget to advocate that practitioners and owners of media houses do the needful by giving them sustenance so that they can be independent and to report genuinely and honestly what is important to society and to continue to keep us glued together by giving us positive perspectives. On this note, I again commend the maker of the statement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to add my voice to this wonderful statement ably made by my colleague, Honourable Asafo-Adjei. Mr. Speaker, indeed, radio is the heartbeat of our democracy. And that is why, on this very day, we must reflect on the fundamental role that it plays in our society. Mr. Speaker, radio helps in promoting access to information. It helps in the freedom of expression and also our democratic governance. And that is why, if you look at the theme for this year, it underscores the importance of free, independent, and diverse media landscape. Mr. Speaker, I have always maintained that if you look at the number of radio stations that we currently have in our country, I mean, just like Honorable Larry Nadrisu said, we have over 300 radio stations. It has created a valve where Ghanaians who feel peeved, Ghanaians who have worries about the political class, can have a medium to express themselves. Mr. Speaker, this has contributed immensely to the political stability that we are witnessing in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, Wednesday, 12 February 2025, the Ministry of Communications in a media advisory said that they have authorized the National Communications Authority to furnish the Minister's Office with a list of all frequency authorizations issued or renewed in the last 60 days. Mr. Speaker, clearly, it's important for us to draw the attention of the Minister that it needs to be measured in its approach. Mr. Speaker, the independence of the National Communication Authority cannot be underestimated. We ought to be careful as a country. I really do not see why a minister would issue a statement that frequencies issued in the last 60 days should come under audit. I really don't understand. He did not give further directives, but I am just cautioning the young minister to be very careful. Mr. Speaker, NCA's issuance of spectrum allocations is governed by an act that was enacted in this very house, the Electronic Communications Act 2008, Act 775. And Mr. Speaker, I wish to draw the attention of the minister to Section 13, Section 9 of the Act that talks about the independence of the NCA, which says, the NCA shall not subject to the direction or control of any person or authority except as provided by law. It goes further to say that, Mr. Speaker, the Minister for Communication cannot unilaterally dictate operations and regulatory decisions. Clearly, Mr. Speaker, the young minister must be mindful of the part that he is taking. He must be mindful of the part that he is taking. I mean, we were in this country when licenses of radio stations were revoked. We saw what really transpired. We saw the brouhaha and the noise that erupted in our country. Mr. Speaker, we do not want to get to that part. Ghana is advancing in democracy. Ghana is developing, and it's important that it needs to be measured. We are looking, we are monitoring, and I think it's important that as a member of parliament, I draw his attention to the part that he has taken. Protecting radio frequencies in this country is protecting our democracy. Let us not use NCA that needs to be independent to score political points. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I commend the maker of this statement, and I pray that we issue more licenses and get to the stage where even the fee that people pay for radio licenses is reduced minimally, so that every constituency in this country, we could have one constituency, one radio station. At least one constituency, one radio station. which will help in the dissemination of information to our good people. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this great opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. Leadership.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the maker of the statement is one I highly commend for making such a very important statement. Mr. Speaker, unless I'm not too clear, but I know that the theme for this World Radio Day is Radio and Climate Change 2025. That's the theme I have, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, it goes to buttress the point that radio is a very powerful tool. We need radio for dissemination of information, for education, and for entertainment. Mr. Speaker, there have been several good works done by radio presenters, and we've really not paid attention to these people. Mr. Speaker, the one that comes to mind readily is the very departed soul who is resting with the Lord, Mr. Speaker, Komla Dumo. He got us to understand that radio can bring in a lot of good stuff that we can acknowledge that these were things we can celebrate in shaping our society. Mr. Speaker, anytime you heard Komla Dumo on radio in the morning, you could understand that this is a man who was educating, informing, and entertaining at the same time. Mr. Speaker, it's not for nothing that today we have the World Radio Day themed as radio and climate change. Climate change is a problem we are dealing with, and one of the major ways to get climate change properly appreciated is through radio. It's through education. It's through information. Mr. Speaker, with all of this said, I also want us to believe that, and with your permission, Article 164, and Mr. Speaker, if I may read, Article 164 of the 1992 Constitution indicates that the provisions of Article 162 and 163 of the Constitution are subject to laws that are reasonably required in the interest of national security, public order, public morality, and for the purposes of protecting reputations, rights, and freedoms of other persons. Mr. Speaker, what radio does is to ensure that there is public order and public safety. Radio is not meant for causing troubles. Radio is meant for educating people, entertaining people, and informing people. Mr. Speaker, when there is miscommunication and misinformation, what we see and what we have seen in some other countries is as a result of how we actually use radio and we did not use it well. Mr. Speaker, we still use radio for public morality purposes. People are educating issues, religious issues, traditional issues, cultural issues, and all of these are done for the purposes of upholding what we have been trained to be. Mr. Speaker, what is also key is to protect the reputations of people. And that is where propaganda comes in. When you do not have the facts, when you do not have the wherewithal, when you do not know what you are about to say, don't say it. Say it when you are sure. Say it when you know it. Say it when you have the true facts. Don't just go and use the radio as a platform to damage the reputations of others because you just have the opportunity to do so. Mr. Speaker, with this, I also want to commend all radio presenters worldwide, and especially in Ghana, especially the professional ones. And Mr. Speaker, emphasis is on the professional ones, because there are ones that they have turned themselves into, with all due respect or deference to your buga presenters. And all they say is what they believe in, just to damage people. Mr. Speaker, we hope and pray that people will use radio for the purposes for which they've been set up. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for granting me this opportunity.
Thank you, Majority Leadership.
Mr. Much for the opportunity. let me also add my voice to commend the maker of the statement. And Mr. Speaker, the theme for this year is radio and the climate change. So, Mr. Speaker, we need to also focus attention on what we are using radio to propagate, because we have a lot of issues in respect of climate change, global warming and all that. So the point is, if you have a radio station, from Monday to Sunday, all they do is to do politics. Throughout the week, Mr. Speaker, and people have become so attached to these stations, said that politically exposed person, and I would use the radio to do propaganda for NDC, so they will never issue the license to me. For the past 8 years, I was calling from the other side. I went through all the processes. I paid for the fees. But I was not issued the license to operate the radio station. But Mr. Speaker, on the application, I did not say NDC. I did not tell them I'm going to use the station to propagate for NDC. But they look at my face and my political orientation, I was denied the license. But if you try to do the same, you see them crying foul. And they will tell you the past wrong can never be justified in today's terms. So there must be a paradigm shift. Okay, it's yes today because you deny me the license. So, Mr. Speaker, we need to talk about our environment. Look at the devastating state that we find ourselves in terms of galamsey activities. Is the media focusing on it? But, Mr. Speaker, let me pay tribute to Erastus Asare. I think he's in Kumasi, right? This guy has done so well in terms of galamsey fight. It got to a point even he needed to run for his life because his personal life was under attack. And he has brought a lot of issues to the fore for people to discuss it. So now that we are seeing some clean waters around us, it's by effort of some of the media houses. The rest can also join. So that at least this kind of, yesterday we were talking about Trump cutting some aid to African countries, and we were crying that there will be a budget gap of $150 million and all that. If we're able to do things right, we'll not need the $150 million Trump is bluffing on us. So, Mr. Speaker, let's encourage the media, but they must be responsive. They must bring to the fore issues affecting communities, issues affecting humanities, so that at least their presence will be felt by all of us. It's not about doing politics 24/7. It's not about trying to pick an individual, attacking them from morning to evening, because somebody is behind it. Always there are sponsors. Let's go after this person so that the opportunity will be given to us. The media independence is there, the constitution is clear. They should live up to their mandate and deliver, because politicians will do everything just to remain relevant, but the media should be there to check us. When you know the cameras are on you, it will shape whatever you say, whatever you do. So our actions and inactions will be shaped by the media landscape. So we encourage them to do more, and we need to also invest in what they do. Sometimes, when they come to cover programs, by the end of the day, what do we give to them? Some media houses, Mr. Speaker, today, some are paid 300, 400, or 500 Ghana cedis. How do you expect them to do quality work for you? How do you expect them to cover whatever you said? So, in terms of remuneration, we need to find a way of also dealing with it. Though it's a private entity, but you have the minimum wage. Why should you pay somebody 400, 500? I've not mentioned the station, so it's not like I'm disclosing somebody's salary. But that's the reality. So, Mr. Speaker, we need to do more to encourage our brothers and sisters
to make this statement. Mr. Speaker, farming is not just an occupation for the people of Bandai. It is a way of life, a very vital source of sustenance, and a cornerstone of our local economy. The devastating fire which erupted between, Mr. Speaker, between the first to the... In my capacity as a representative of the people, I contacted the NADMO to expedite their investigation to establish the cause of the fires and bring to book if it was deliberate or deliberately orchestrated by an individual. However, Mr. Speaker, preliminary reports indicate that the fire was largely caused by bush fires.